Okay, I want to share with you a story again from pest control, my world. That's been a big part of my business life. And I want to share a little bit of an evolution because this wasn't so simple for me as just tweaking critical drivers. So let me just share the story and then I'll wrap around and pull it all together. So I had a goal at the time that if I created a route for a technician, I expected them to finish the route. And I kind of just assumed in my head, okay, if I give someone a route and they complete it, as long as I did a good job putting the route together, then I'm going to make money, right? It made sense to me. And so that was my goal. And so I went to the technician and I said, hey, the goal is I want to make money. What you need to do every single day is you need to go complete the route. And you can't go home unless you complete the entire route. Just don't do a half day, you know? And when you're done, clock out and go home. And it was a pretty laid back, easy relationship, very, very clear, and the technician understood. What started to happen though was after a month or two of this, I started recognizing that the technician was taking longer and longer and longer and longer in a day, to the point where in my head, I thought this day should take the technician like 6 hours. And he was clocking literally double, 12 hours on a day. And it wasn't just a one-off circumstance. And I approached the technician and I just flat out asked him, like, uh, why is this taking you so long? And it seemed like every single time I asked him, it was a different excuse. Oh, well, my grandpa died. Oh, well, I had to go do a reservice that was way far away. Oh, the routes weren't put together very well. Oh, I had to talk to the customer because he had a lot of questions. And it just started putting up red flags in my head of like, this shouldn't happen every single day. And you have to understand, this was a point in business where I didn't have a lot of the contingencies in place and tracking to be able to know if he was telling the truth or not. I didn't have GPS in the vehicles. I didn't have the know-how to utilize the software correctly to figure out if he actually was on site, et cetera. Like, I just had to take his word for it. And so I finally just was going to bed feeling kind of sick, but I was also accomplishing my goal. And by the way, this is an important point. If you're meeting your goal, but you're feeling like something is wrong, you're still feeling anxiety about it, that is likely a goal issue, a KPI issue, and you need to look at the KPI and readdress it. So that's what I did. I went back and I said, my goal maybe just isn't correct. I am making money, but how much money am I making? And I dove into my finances and I realized I was making around a 60% gross margin, which wasn't horrible. But when I went through my qualifying steps, qualifications, I needed at least an 80% gross margin in order for it to be a business that was qualified for me to put my time, energy, and money into. And so I sat back and said, okay, now I know what my goal needs to be when it comes to fulfillment. My gross margin needs to be at least 80%. And so I approached the technician and I told him 85%. My goal is 85% gross margin. That guarantees that the business is going to make money to the point where I can scale and actually be happy at the end of the day. That led to some confusion. He's like, I don't know what that means. I don't know how to calculate that. Like, I don't know what the cost of product is, And so then I was like, okay, I need to think about this a little bit more. So I went and took another day, and now that I had established the goal, I needed to dial a little bit more into, okay, what needs to be done every single day in order to accomplish that goal? And this is where the critical driver comes in. I realized, okay, if I want to maintain this gross margin, then I need to make sure that this technician, he goes out and he does $150 of revenue for every hour that is clocked. And I was like, the technician can understand that. He sees his production value. He knows how much money he's bringing in revenue to the business every day. And so I went to the technician and I explained that, hey, if you clock 10 hours in a day, that means you need to go out and do $1,500 in a day. Or in other words, if you have $1,000 in production in a day, it shouldn't take you longer than X hours. I don't know the math off the top of my head. And that's when I explained to him, this is where the issue is if you have $1,000 day, I'm expecting it to take this long and you're taking double. That means that I'm not making my gross margin. I know it's not your job to calculate the gross margin. That's the goal. But here's what you need to do every single day to accomplish that goal for me. Does that make sense? If you do that, I'm going to be happy. The technician, he understood it, he took it really well, and he went and he changed things in the business. It hasn't always happened. I've had employees that have done jobs way too quickly that have led to issues, and way too slowly and it's led to issues, and they didn't get the critical driver. But if you establish good critical drivers, by the time it comes time to assign them to somebody or a system or an agency, and you're clear, this is my goal, but this is what I need you to do every single day to accomplish that goal, and they can get behind it, it leads to a lot less issues, and it's going to be much, much healthier for your culture. So hopefully that story helps you understand the power of critical drivers.